Welcome to the Battle Ready deck review. I'm going to be taking a look at these decks that have now been added into the shop and just kind of going over them, giving them my general thoughts and some things that maybe you want to think about. Right here, top item in the shop, at least currently, $14.99 for a deck of your choice. One warning here, you're only going to be able to buy one of these decks after you've purchased one. You will not be able to purchase the other three, so if you decide that you want to buy one of these, make sure that you get the one you want. You're not going to be able to get a do-over or potentially purchase all four. Again, the price here, $14.99, as you can see, and some information right in this area about the decks. One thing that I would disagree with is on each one of these decks, put your best foot forward with a competitive deck optimized for the most recent expansion season. A couple of things I want to break down in that. Number one, I totally disagree. None of these four decks are actually optimized. I think there's a better version of each one of the deck. That being said, they are four relatively strong archetypes, at least with the most recent expansion season. So the way I look at that is these decks were good in October, but a couple of things to keep in mind here. Thing number one, the Deadmines mini set has now released. New cards always shake up the meta. There's going to be new decks. There's going to be decks that are updated with new cards, potentially still with the same archetype. But things are going to be changing. These decks are no longer guaranteed to be good. It's going to take a couple of weeks for the meta to really shake out, and we're going to see where these decks are at. But there's no guarantee with anything. Also, another thing to keep in mind, there is going to be another expansion. Typically, we see a Hearthstone expansion come out in December. There's been no official word on that as of the time that I'm making this video. Realistically, I would expect it to be somewhere around the middle of December, just based on history from previous years, as well as the fact as the mini set, Deadmines mini set, was delayed about 2 weeks because of the Mercenaries launch. But at some point, there's going to be an entirely new set of cards which will almost surely invalidate all four of these decks. So I say all that to say these decks do have a shelf life on them. We don't know exactly what that shelf life is, but if you spend the money to be able to pick up one of these decks, just know it's not going to be good forever, and it may only be good for a couple of weeks. Keep that in mind. Very important. Buyer beware. Taking a closer look at the Druid deck here, this is aggro Druid. I definitely think that this is a strong archetype. It was previously. I expect it to be going forward. Of the four decks that are available, I think this is actually going to be the strongest deck to ladder with, as far as if you're trying to get the best rank that you can possibly get. This is definitely going to be the best choice of the four decks for me. Keep in mind, just one person's opinion. You may want to solicit other opinions. Continue to do research. Down here, we see a little bit of additional details. 30 cards in total, 30 disenchantable. That's something that I like to see just from the value standpoint of spending money on this. By the time you pay taxes, I'm going to call this $16. So what do you actually get for your $16? A little bit of details right here. I like to see 30 disenchantable. Keep in mind that at least some of these other decks are going to have cards included in them that are part of the core set, meaning you already have access to some of the cards in the deck. So with this deck, you at least know that you're getting 30 cards added to your collection that you may not currently have access to, depending on where you're at as far as the collection. Just a solid deck here. This deck is going to win from the board. You're going to have a board presence, hopefully being able to attack and do some damage to your opponent's face. And then at some point, you're going to play this Arbor up. You're going to buff all of the minions that you have on the board, go face, and finish the game. That's kind of the general game plan of how this deck is going to be executed. Not super exciting to play from a fun factor. Again, just for me personally, you're playing minions on the board. At some point, you're going to buff them, go face, and win the game. There's not going to be a lot of complex decisions with this deck. It's not going to be like solving a puzzle trying to find lethal. Very straightforward, but also a very, very strong deck. Again, I think the best deck for actually ranking up. If you would choose to buy this deck in the mulligan, you're going to want to look for things like Oracle of Elune and Razormane Battle Guard. Those are the two big power cards in the deck. You really need these in the mulligan. Don't bait yourself. You know, Vibrant Squirrel is not a keep. Make sure you put that back. Outside of Battle Guard and Oracle of Elune, you would also be looking to keep Peasant, but only if you're on the play. Meaning, if you're going first on turn one, you would keep Peasant and play Peasant. If you're on the coin, meaning you're going second on turn one, mulligan the Peasant, and really just try to stick to finding Razormane Battle Guard and Oracle of Elune. Also keep in mind, if you would throw these cards out on the board, you don't necessarily want to play Razormane Battle Guard on turn 2. If you had Razormane Battle Guard along with a taunt minion that you could play as well, for example, Bone Chewer Brawler to help protect it, then that would be a good play. Sometimes you may actually just want to hold it in hand so that you can get that free taunt, really to be able to cheat mana and get an extra minion on the board that you shouldn't or wouldn't be able to under other circumstances. Same thing with Oracle of Elune. Don't just necessarily throw it out on turn 3. Maybe you hold it till turn 4 or turn 5. Really want to get value out of that card. This deck, I think it's the best of the 4 for ranking up. Probably not as fun as some of the other options. Moving on to the Hunter list. This is going to be a Quest Hunter. Of the 4 decks, I think that this is actually the most fun, although it's not going to be the best for ranking up on the ladder. I really enjoy Quest Hunter deck. Once you complete the quest, it does kind of tend to be more like a puzzle. How can I get lethal? How much damage can I do in a turn? I find this deck to be very enjoyable. Should be relatively competitive still. It's going to be hard to say until the meta really settles down. I think you could potentially get run over by a hyper aggro deck to where you just don't have time to be able to complete your quest and to really being able to get into the post-quest completion gameplay, which is where the fun comes in, also where the win condition comes in. From a value standpoint, I think that this is the best of the 4. Value just meaning Barak Kodobane, one of the best Hunter cards. Renling's Rifle, one of the best Hunter cards. Bloodmage Thalnos is going to see play in other decks outside of Hunter. It's just a good minion to have. Keep in mind here, though, only 21 of these cards are disenchantable. I'm not exactly sure which cards, without looking, are in the core set, but it's likely that you're going to have access to 9 of these cards before you even spend money on this deck. So from a value standpoint, if you think it's worth it or whether it's not worth it, keep that in mind. Typically, in the mulligan, if you choose to purchase this deck or play this deck, you're looking for just damaging spells, Overwhelm, Arcane Shot, Wound Prey, the cheap ones. Always keep the quest. Cheap damage spells to be able to advance the quest. Really, with any quest deck, you're just looking to complete the quest as quickly as possible so that you can get your power spike with the quest reward, and then that's where you start looking to win the game. If you know that you're playing against a deck that is not going to be putting minions on the board, for example, if you're playing against Quest Mage, they're not going to be putting minions on the board, then you would want to mulligan Overwhelm and look for something else. In situations like that, Wound Prey is able to go face, but Arcane Shot, Quick Shot, Aim Shot are going to be the cards that you're going to want to keep. They advance your quest. You can also do damage to your opponent's face. If they are going to be playing minions, then you could potentially keep things like Bola Shot and Overwhelm to be able to keep their side of the board clear, keep yourself safe, but still advance the quest. So the mulligan's going to be a little bit different based on what you're playing against. Another reason that I feel like this is one of the best values, or the best value of these 4 decks, there's cards in here that are also usable in another Hunter deck, that being Face Hunter, Aim Shot, certainly very key there. Barak Kodobane is good in that deck, Renling's Rifle. So purchasing this, it sort of opens up the avenues to be able to also build a Face Hunter deck, and then you have options, more than one deck that you could potentially play. Also keeping in mind, some of the cards included here are going to be in the core set. Moving on to the Paladin list. This is probably, I would say, in my opinion, the least fun of these 4 decks to play from a standpoint of just having fun playing. And I also think this is probably going to be the worst deck for being able to move up the ladder. Again, just one person's opinion. 23 disenchantable cards. That means there are going to be cards in the core set included in this deck. Mr. Smite, of course, is a card from the Deadmines set, so if you're thinking about buying the Deadmines set, just know that you would buy the Deadmines set. Then there's also at least one Deadmines card included with this as well. Typically with this deck in the mulligan, you would want to go for Alliance Bannerman, and probably some of the earlier game plays. High Lord Foredragon is probably a keep, again, along with Alliance Bannerman, but you're really looking to buff the cards that you have in your hand, and then play them out as bigger than what they should be. You could also keep Prismatic Jewel Kit, and then you're going to see your minions just get bigger as they're in your hand. Again, I think this is the worst of the 4 decks from the standpoint of value, from the standpoint of fun, and from the standpoint of being able to climb the ladder. Again, just one man's opinion. Final deck, Quest Rogue. I do like this deck. Again, this is going to be a deck that you're not really solving puzzles to be able to win the game. You're just going to be playing minions out of your hand, but still a very strong deck. I would expect it to continue to be strong. Just keep in mind, if you do buy this deck, these SI cards are pretty much only going to be used in Quest Rogue. You're not going to get a lot of value in other decks out of those. The one exception would be SI7 Skulker. You will see this card potentially used in some other decks from time to time. All the other SI cards, they're not going to be played in any other deck, so you're not going to really get that cross-deck, cross-class value from buying this deck and then having those cards for other decks as well. Battleground Battlemaster, that's also an exception here. This card is going to see play in some other decks, but there's only one included. So just not a whole lot of value here as far as that goes. And again, looking at this one, Edwin, Defias, Kingpin, this is also part of the Deadmines mini set. If you're thinking about buying the mini set, just keep that in mind as well. Outside of that, good deck, strong deck. You're always going to keep the quest, and then you're really just looking for the cheap SI cards. If you can reasonably expect that you're going to be able to use Extortion on an opponent's minion, I would keep Extortion. Helps keep the board clear and advances your quest. SI7 is going to be a keep, as well as SI7 Skulker and SI7 Operative. You would keep those cards. Again, you're really just trying to advance the quest as quickly as possible, complete the quest, and then once you complete the quest, you're going to drop your 7/7 quest reward, Spy Master Gizmo, and, or actually Spy Master Scabs, who is going to give you 5 gizmos. But typically you would be looking to complete this quest, probably complete the quest around turn 6. Then on turn 7, you're going to play the quest reward, which is going to be the 7/7. And then you would be looking to play Noggin Fogger Elixir on your 7/7. That's going to make it a 9/7, put it in stealth. And then also play the 3/2 weapon, most likely take a swing at your opponent's face. And then the following turn, you would want to be able to play Battleground Battlemaster to be able to give your 9/7 Wind Fury, be able to finish the opponent. That's kind of the typical way that I tend to win games with this deck. Just based on this list as is, that's going to be your main win condition. That's how you're going to get there. 24 disenchantable cards. There are going to be some cards included in this deck that are part of the core set. So again, just thinking about value, buyer beware. Anytime you're going to spend money, at least for me, I always want to know, what am I getting for my money? How much is it going to cost? Again, you're looking at about $16. So any one of these 4 decks, probably okay for the ladder. Again, I think Druid is going to be the best deck for the ladder. I think Rogue is likely going to be the second best deck. Hunter is going to be third, and the Paladin deck is going to be 4th in terms of raw power. Can I gain ranks? In terms of fun, the most fun deck, without a doubt for me, is going to be Quest Hunter. Thank you for watching the video. If you found any information useful here, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Questions, comments, concerns, hit me up in the comments. More than happy to have a discussion there. Hope you enjoyed the review, and good luck out on the ladder.